she said, my name is Mallory Curlee. I'm the founder and designer of CurleeBikini, which is a 100% handmade, eco-friendly swimwear line. This is just one little page on my website. Born into a family of Gulf Coast surfers, I immediately fell in love with and developed a great deal of respect for the ocean. Also, at an early age, I realized that I naturally derive a very strong sense of my design inspiration from vintage clothing. Apart from my favorite vintage pieces, a swimsuit has always been one of my most coveted items. After working 2 years in retail management, during April of 2009, I took the leap and switched my career focus from succeeding within the corporate world to succeeding entrepreneurially. This idea for a low carbon footprint swimwear line is the product of combining my love of the thrifty textile hunt, a great respect for Mother Nature, and my passion for designing the perfect swimsuit. At CurleeBikini, the atmosphere we create in, the fabrics we create with, and our entire creative operations are all mindful of Mother Nature. Our swimsuits are handmade to order and custom sized per an individual client's or specific boutique's needs. There is no large manufacturing facility within our operations, just myself working with nature and the sunshine. Over the years since graduating and settling into that day-to-day life of the working woman in the fashion industry in Los Angeles, my environmental awareness has grown extremely rapidly. First, I began taking greater care to simply recycle and educate myself on sustainable living practices. Once embracing these environmentally conscious practices on a personal level, I began to question why the same principles couldn't take place within my profession. All of my energy became solely focused on the amount of waste, overproduction, and environmental harm that occurs on a daily basis within the fashion industry, particularly within the swimwear sector of the fashion industry. It's one thing to first evaluate the negative environmental impact of a company's overall manufacturing practices, but what about taking a step deeper into the industry to evaluate the environmental effect of its textiles and its textile manufacturing practices? According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, today's textile industry is the 5th largest contributor of CO2 emissions in the United States. Within this textile industry specifically, swimwear is derived primarily of synthetic materials. Acrylic, polyester, and nylon are the most energy intensive in their production, much higher than, say, hemp or cotton. This is an environmental double whammy by the swimwear sector alone on the fashion industry. It produces general negative effects on the environment in both areas of the swimsuit's manufacturing process and also the swimwear textile manufacturing process. For years, many designers, including myself, have been repurposing vintage clothing and textiles into modern designs for dresses, pants, shirts, and so on. I'm sure most of you being fashion students have done the same yourself to alter your clothes. I just started thinking, why not do the same thing for swimwear? I see just as much vintage swimwear out in the thrift stores as I do vintage t-shirts and dresses. At CurleeBikini, vintage textiles are found and donated. Scrapped fabrics are saved from a life of waste, and in particular, vintage swimsuits are redesigned to create a new swimsuit. A vintage one-piece swimsuit can produce 1 to 3 new swimsuits, depending on the size and the pattern details of the swimsuits you're working with. In repurposing a vintage swimsuit, its seams, elastics, and liners are all completely removed, first reverting it to a simple piece of fabric. This vintage swimsuit fabric is then washed and possibly dyed if necessary before being cut and sewn into a new swimsuit. Throughout our entire sewing processes, all of the discarded thread is then used for any hand-stitched portions of the swimsuit. We work with environmentally conscious manufacturers only for organic, plant-based elastics, threads, and trims and findings. But primarily, everything we use is vintage or recycled. From the perspective of the more common, non-environmentally conscious business model, at first sight, the eco-friendly concept for CurleeBikini did seem to be very tedious and complicated, especially within the area of textiles, considering that you have to take everything apart and use a lot of extra time to work with the textiles before you can even make it into a swimsuit. Many additional practices and regulations had to be incorporated into the business model to fulfill the ultimate eco-friendly goals. Zero waste is an example of one of our important practices at CurleeBikini. Using scrap materials to start offers very little room for the waste of textiles, therefore making textile conservation key. Much more time is spent on the search for the perfect textiles, and in addition, extra time is obviously required to repurpose the material before even thinking about cutting and sewing it into a new pattern. The color stories chosen for each season are greatly driven by what textiles are found, rather than being driven solely by myself as the designer and the theme of the season. Due to the specialized textile sourcing methods, it's very rare that an exact duplication of a CurleeBikini swimsuit can be made. Some may see this type of textile sourcing as very limiting, yet for me, it's one of the great inspirational factors within the line, and it's a very exciting daily challenge. On another hand, CurleeBikini swimwear does not have lining, padding, or underwire. Eliminating these typical swimwear trims and findings, essentially made of plastics, lends an additional hand to Mother Nature. Alternatively, we do offer reversible swimwear, and we've designed a few of our own special tricks to ensure supportive, flattering, and stylish swimwear for all types of feminine figures. Obviously, the extra time spent sourcing and repurposing the textiles, matched with the overall eco-friendly business operations, yields to an even higher price point than your average manufacturer mass-produced swimsuit. Here's where the greatest business challenge plays itself out: in educating the consumer towards understanding the great differences within an eco-friendly business model and its positive value on our futures. The popularity and availability of environmentally conscious brands, products, and textiles is rapidly spreading each new season. Yet when being a newbie within your industry, embarking into the eco-friendly territory, you must be very prepared to educate your consumer. Without the consumer knowledge as to why your eco-friendly product is better than another non-environmentally conscious product, you won't have the sales. Therefore, besides the overall eco-friendly business model for creating the product, today, every environmentally conscious brand must create a serious platform for educational marketing. Over time, our hope is that environmentally conscious product knowledge will become the norm and less education will be necessary. But currently, this is the state of the overall eco industry. Specifically, the swimwear industry is highly dependent on the health of our environment. If the ocean is polluted, there will be no swimming or surfing at the beaches. And if the Earth's ozone layer deteriorates, nobody will be able to wear a swimsuit outdoors anyways. As designers and consumers, swimwear is another very important market that we need to become much more environmentally conscious within. Having established such a business model within the swimwear industry that is now underway and has found its rhythm, feels completely natural rather than extraneous. It is a plan derived from a strong determination to favor the environment, every step of the way. CurleeBikini is creating innovative designs with recycled, scrapped, and vintage materials to eliminate unnecessary, non-environmentally conscious pieces within the product and its manufacturing processes. It's like taking the art of fashion design back in time with a modern twist. Inspiration from Mother Nature has refreshed the focus to incorporate extra time necessary to create a stylish, functional, durable, supportive, and also eco-friendly design, rather than simply abusing today's technologies by quickly overproducing a mediocre product that has little environmental conscience. This type of awareness for Mother Nature via the fashion industry and via the art of design is wholly worth the extra effort that goes into hand-making each swimsuit, and that goes into processing all of the textiles necessary to create the swimsuit. Through CurleeBikini, I am custom designing swimwear to make each woman feel the best they can about themselves in a bathing suit. But also, I am driven to forge the field of swimwear design anew, leaving behind the lowest carbon footprint possible for the greater health of tomorrow's Earth.